Okay, on the bench today we have a nice Fender 70s reissued Deluxe Telecaster, Seth Lover pickups. The guitar has to be refretted. I don't know if you can see those frets, but they're pretty worn down. It's been leveled out a few times, but now there's just no fret left, and we're going to have to refret this guitar. Okay, here's my homemade neck jig that I made out of birch ply. Here's the block. It mounts right on the jig there, if you can see that. I can backlight it so I could read the top of the fretboard or the frets with my levels, depending on if I'm just doing fret work or if I'm actually leveling the board out or doing both. And there's the neck now. It's on the jig. Here's the posts under here that support the neck while I'm doing the work. I also have a bridge so I can string the guitar up, or I should say string the neck up, so I can see what the neck looks like under normal tuning tension. We've taken all the frets out up to the 12th fret. You can see they've come out nice and clean. There's no major tearing in the board. It's because I heated the frets up, and I use a really good set of snippers, which are these. Actually, they're snippers and pullers, but they're very sharp, and they get right underneath the fret itself, and I'm able to lift it out straight. I can pinch it like this, and I actually work it straight up. You don't want to tear it out like this, because then you'll tear out some of the wood. You want to pull the fret straight up like this, so it exits the way it entered. The way it went into the board straight is the way you want it to come out. And that's what I've done here. We still have all these frets to go, but we're going to take our time doing them because, again, we don't want to rush this process. Then I'll clean those slots out just a little bit. Take a little bit of the top varnish that's left over here. That always, because they varnish the necks after they fret them, so that you always get a little buildup around the fret with the Fenders. They do that with these maple necks. So just heating this up now, nice and even. Taking my time, really get the fret nice and hot. Put that gun down. Let's just start it right here on the edge. Just lift it gently. Get the pliers underneath. You can see I'm squeezing it up. I'm not pulling it up. I'm squeezing it up. Squeezing, and out it comes. And that's a very nice, clean slot. I'll get the camera, bring it right up close to that slot and show you how clean it actually is. That's the second fret I just pulled. See how nice and clean that slot is. All of them are like that. Just have one more fret to go. All of these have been removed successfully, and we're going to refret this guitar now. We're just going to yank that one out. You can see how bad that is. We're really right down almost to the board. That's how low those grooves are. So this guitar really needed to be refretted. Pre-cut a piece of fret wire. Here it is with the radius, if you can see that already bent into it. I'm going to place it right here on the first, in this slot right here, the last slot I should say, and I'm just going to tack it. This is my fretting hammer. It's got a brass side and a plastic side. I used the plastic side. I'm just going to tack it on one end and on the other and see how that feels. That one kind of just right, nice and snug, not too snug, because what happens is you get fret compression as you're fretting the neck all the way down. If the tang, which is the part of the fret, this part of the fret that goes into the slot, if it's too wide, you'll start bowing the neck back. It's called fret compression. It gradually happens from fret to fret, but you actually start to bow the neck backwards, and you don't want that. We want to try and fret this neck nice and flat. The neck is level. I've leveled it. I've supported it on the neck jig, and I'm going to take the camera off and show you that. And then I'm going to start to insert the frets one at a time, checking to make sure the neck stays straight all the way down as I refret it. Once that's done, we're going to level it out. Here's the posts. Here's my wife, my little stepson. When he was little, I always have them on the bench. But there's how the neck is being supported by the posts. There's the fret, and all I'm going to do is just hammer the fret in and go all the way down this neck and fret the neck straight. Okay, I'm going to start hammering the fret down, part closest to me. See how that feels? It's going in good. As I do that, the fret is going to pull up a little bit, but then I'll hammer it back down again as it goes across the radius of the neck. Come along to the side. I tack them down just a little like this to just to push it down on the edge. And I hold the hammer like this with my finger on top, not like this. I find I can get more control if my finger is right on top of it. And I'm going to check that fret. and I'm coming up close looking at it. That's really flush right on the board. That's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for, and we're going to go all the way down like that. Let me see how close I can get with this camera without getting it too blurry. You can see how nice they're all sitting. They're all flush. They're level already, really. I'm going to have to come down a level and crown them because the fret wire is a little inconsistent from spot to spot. But for the most part, because this neck is so true, they're really, and we cleaned the slots out really well and we prepared them properly, we're really getting those frets to sit just the way we want to on this neck. This neck is going to come out really great. Andrew will be very happy. It's all set. It's dead flat. The rods under here are supporting it. We've taped the fretboard down here, is what we're doing. You tape the fretboard down so you don't hurt it. I left the nut on the guitar. I may not have to cut a new nut for this. We'll see. These frets were low, but the strings were awful high at the nut, so I might be able to save it. I may not. We'll have to see, but it's worth trying. So try to keep the guitar as original as possible. Okay, I've leveled these frets out. They're perfect. I used the sanding beam. I actually switched to 220 paper to take it down. I did need to do a little bit more sanding than I thought. Then I switched back to the 320. So I had 220, sorry, 220 I switched to, then I went to 320, so it gets a little smoother edge on the top. And then what I'm going to do is from the 12th fret on down, I'm going to graduate the frets so they're a little bit lower as from the 12th fret on down. Usually you do it from the 12th or sometimes from the 15th fret on down. So I'm going to place some paper over the 8th fret area, and I've marked the 12th fret and I marked the 8th fret under here. I'm going to come along with a smaller sanding beam that doesn't have sandpaper all the way on it, just on a certain spot. Let me move this over. And what I'm going to do is just rock this gently right around here so that it doesn't go past the 12th fret. And I'm going to just graduate a slight instep. And this instep is just going to graduate these frets down so they're a little lower, a little lower, a little lower, like you're stepping down. This way the guitar will play clean all the way up the neck and there won't be any fret buzz. Now I'm noticing back here towards the 12th fret, it's a little flat in these spots. The paint is still here. The paint has been removed on the outskirts, so the radius is actually starting to come back to the fret, but it's still flat in the middle, so I have to keep going till all of it's removed. And what I do is I take some compressed air and I just shoot across the top just to remove a lot of the filings, or the little particles that come off. It's not really a filing because I'm not filing the fret. I'm just using the sand block, so it's like a powder, you know, that comes off, almost like sawdust, only it's metal. I'm going across the top, gradually bringing these frets back, the radius back to the fret. I've taken them down to 800 grit sandpaper, so we've polished them up really, really well. The edges you can actually see. Let me see if I can slow it down. Tape is still on. They really look good. This job came out really great. Now I'm going to take these buffing pads here. We start with the first one, which is 1500. So rust color. We go all the way down to 12,000. I was going to say 1200, but 12,000. It's that high. So we're going to use each one of these pads. Basically what I'm going to do is take a pad like this and go up and down the frets. Just bounce along the frets this way, polish them like that, and then end off like this with long strokes. And we'll go from the, like I said, the 1500 up to the 12,000, and that will really, really bring a nice shine up to these frets. We'll do the edges too, and it'll dress them perfectly. Okay, the guitar is finished. We did not have to cut a new nut for it. It sounds good. Sounds great, actually. It's a beautiful guitar. And it's all polished up. The action is fantastic on it. There's the fret job. Frets are all leveled out, highly polished. I put a little bit of lacquer back on the neck to give it a good feel. Touched up the sides right around here too with the lacquer. There it is. It looks great. Don't need a... Let me just hold the camera. No buzzing. So we didn't need a new nut. Usually you do. Usually when you do a refret job, you almost always have to put a new nut in, but we got lucky with this one.